This video is going to be jam-packed with tips and tricks to help you gather more resources than your enemies in Call of Dragons. Whether it's a tip like gather on territory for an extra 20% resource gathering speed, or you're looking for the best talent builds and how do some of those gathering talents work anyways, stick around in this video for everything you need to know to ascend to the top of the resource gathered list. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming and I have been a top resource gatherer in pretty much every one of this style of game that I go and play. And I figure out all of the micro optimizations to get as much free-to-play value as I can so that I don't typically have to go and buy resources. Now on this whaled account, I did buy some resources. Literally, I max purchased the resource bundle, which... hey, look, you got to do what you got to do. T5 in less than a month was a bit of a rush, all right? But you can get crazy value by just gathering the resources yourself. And although I am only 10th on the list, I want to show you something very significant here, which is that although the #1 player on the list has a cool 66 million mana, hey, that ain't bad. Your boy Chisgule over here has been gathering tons of mana, okay? Almost entirely freaking mana. I have 141 million mana, baby. Oh, and I also have 104 million ore. And you may think, why is that significant? Well, when you look at the resource nodes, for a level 5 resource node, you get 760,000 gold or wood. You get even less stone. And you get not even 300, it's 252,000 mana for the same level node. So basically, this mana is worth 3 or 4 times as many resources as represented in this total number. And by the way, you may not have noticed that if you go to your alliance market, you actually can't trade mana to other players, which is really significant. It says so right over here. So you really want to be gathering your mana because yes, mana is a part of so many things that you'll do in this game. It is the chase currency. And great news, it also can't be plundered from other players from your storehouse, which is kind of cool. So if you have an overage of mana, man, it ain't so bad. So let's get right into the things you really need to know to get serious value gathering in Call of Dragons. And I want to start with tips and tricks, baby. We're going to go to commander builds, or I guess hero builds, and which ones you should prioritize, and more. So use the timestamps in the description if you want to navigate to any one part of this video. The first thing you got to do, if you're serious about gathering some stinking resources, is use a resource gathering item. These are very simple. You can hit the get more option all the way up in the left here. You scroll on down and boom, you got 2 options, 8 hours or 24-hour gathering speed boost. Yeah, I popped the 24-hour gathering speed boost and it's giving me a 50% boost to gathering speed. That's a big deal, man. Pop one of those every time you're gathering, of course. But from here, less commonly known things is that if you gather on territory, you get a 25% boost. Okay, Alliance towers can be used to expand your territory, and when inside their Alliance territory, Alliance members' gather speed is increased by 25%, except when gathering gems. Only Alliance members can relocate to their territory, blah, blah, blah. So you want to gather on your territory. Point is, 25% gathering speed. When you have the option, gather on territory. But another trick that you may not understand, and many people are like, wait, how do you get level 5 nodes at the start of the game anyways? They're so rare. Well, where should you be gathering? If you zoom all the way out and smash the resource button on the map, the dark green and light green are the areas that are the richest. So you can see I actually coincidentally have 3 of my gatherers in this area that's super resource rich. And yeah, I mean, this is where the level 5 nodes spawn in, baby. Right? This is where the level 6 nodes sometimes spawn in this resource-rich area. So ideally, you plunk your city near several of these resource-rich areas. Alternatively, right, you could be in between these 2 resource-rich areas. But let me tell you what people are doing wrong, and it drives me insane, okay? What drives me insane is when cities are teleported in the resource-rich area. Now, I don't blame anybody. Okay, I'm not calling people out because nobody knows. It's the early game. It's not like we put out a bulletin telling people to teleport the heck out of the resource-rich areas. But if your city is inside this resource-rich area, you are literally blocking where more resource nodes would be spawning, I think, that are high level. But don't because your city's there. And you can see this really clearly in areas where tons of cities have ported in. that just not nearly as many of these resource-rich nodes are porting in because there's too many cities blocking where those spawn-ins would be. I'm pretty sure it works that way. Could be wrong. Either way, doesn't hurt to be where I am, teleported in a super irrelevant zone where just level 1s and level 2s would have spawned. I'm not blocking anything important from happening. Okay, so that covers quick and upfront some tips and tricks that you really needed to know. But let's now talk about the heroes you use to gather resources, right? Because this obviously matters. There are 5 heroes of import. That includes Kella, Chakcha, Indus, also Pan. Now, technically, I said 5. The 5th is Ordo. Now, Ordo is a little unusual because he has gathering foundation talents right over here, Earth's Grace. We're going to talk more about that in a bit, but he doesn't actually have the gathering tree. So at the start of the sort of launch of the game, there's only those 5 heroes, and that's it. Now, these 4 heroes that have the gathering talent tree, which you see listed right over here, have some really big benefits, and they are important. In addition, each one of these gathering heroes has a gathering focus. The second skill is their gathering skill, okay? And for Kella, you are getting 15% gathering speed for everything and an additional 10% for gold. For Ordo, you are gathering 10% for everything, 10% extra load capacity, and also 10% extra ore gathering speed. Indus and Pan are your wood gatherers, okay? Indus is the legendary. She is actually available from the Dragon Trail. She gives you 20% overall gathering speed and 10% for wood. And then Pan gives you 20% gathering speed overall and 20% for wood, which is actually, that's actually insane. Is the epic better than the legendary? What? That's crazy. Wait, really? Gathering speed of Pan's Legion by 20% and its wood gathering speed by an additional 20%? Dude, Pan is actually cracked. So anyways, with these gathering heroes, especially the legendary and the epic, you want to be careful about how many stars you put onto them. Ideally, you would max that gathering skill before you proceed. But you can see that I have taken them both to 3 stars, and I will explain why that is in just a minute when we talk about the talents, which I am about to do. The one other thing I want to point out is that Ordo does have a specialty technically, okay? He is good for gathering mana. 10% gathering speed for everything, then 10% gathering speed for mana. Also some Legion capacity boost. Now, I don't really care about Legion capacity boost too much. At the start of the game, super relevant. Once you have enough troops, it doesn't really matter all that much, okay? Now, from here, we can finally talk about talents, baby. And the talents are why I'm recommending you take all of your gatherers to 3 stars quickly. Here's why. When we look at the talents, you can see that there is this talent called Earth's Grace. It is insane. When a Legion finishes gathering, you get hero experience equal to 1.2% of the resources gathered, up to 12,000 experience per day. Now that stacks with this over here, another 20,000 experience per day, and that stacks with this over here, another 20,000 experience per day. So you can get 52,000 experience per day onto both the primary hero and the secondary hero you bring to go gather with them. This is really huge. I made a dedicated video all about how you can literally gather experience to power level your heroes, which is really crazy and really powerful. So even if you don't care about the resources, which you should, getting the levels on your heroes at the start of the season seems critical. And this is why we go to 3 stars. Because at 3 stars, you unlock the Deputy, that is the secondary hero. And when you have a Deputy, again, now you are no longer just leveling the Gathering Hero, you're leveling the Gathering Hero plus 1 more. Now, I can, of course, show this to you in my reports. I make my way over here, and you can see I'm gathering ridiculous amounts of experience every single day onto many heroes. I'd show you more, but this is as far as it'll take down the report. But there is one other thing you'll notice, which is that I'm also getting extra resource items. Hello. 3 of them. 3 items that give you either 10,000 gold or wood, 7,500 ore, or 5,000 mana. That's pretty good. Now, why am I getting extra resource items? Well, one of the pinnacle talents, the top talents for gathering, is going to be a choice. And the choice that you have is either right over here, Lay of the Land. When your Legion's been gathering for 1 hour and completes the task, resource production in your city increases by 50% for 1 hour. Or you can get Windfall. You receive additional reward items when your Legion depletes a resource point. Okay? So regardless of what level node it is, you get the same amount of items, which I found to be very interesting. So at the start of the game where it's really hard to get level 5 nodes and level 6 nodes because everybody is gunning for them the second they spawn in, Windfall is actually really, really good, especially when your resource production buildings aren't very high level yet. This is especially true. So Windfall, I think, is a fine take at the start of the game. And allow me to explain what this does, Lay of the Land, because this was confusing to me. For 1 hour, if you've been gathering, you get 50% resource production. I thought that was insane until I realized what it did. Okay, so you have to be gathering at a node for more than an hour, which is already a feat of strength because it's so hard to find level 5 nodes, even when you know where to look, that like you just don't get that many situations where you're going to gather for a long time. So it's hard to gather for that full hour from a node. But if you do, it doesn't give you a 50% production boost to everything. It gives you a 50% production boost to the one resource that you were gathering. So if you were gathering mana, I figured this out because I went into my boost and I had a unlisted, it just said 50% next to mana production. Like literally when I had the boost running, it was like empty, no text, and then 50% off to the side. And I was like, oh, so the boost I got is only to the one resource type that I just finished gathering, not everything. So the resource production boost is currently, in my opinion, much better when you're in one of the later zones where you can actually get some higher level nodes. And coincidentally, the more you tech up, the faster you gather from nodes, which means the less you actually get this thing to trigger because you'll only be gathering for less than an hour for most nodes once you tech up a little bit. So anyways, I don't think Lay of the Land is critical. So for those of you wondering which one of these top talents do I take, I think it's probably better to go with Windfall at the start of the game. Maybe mid-late game, Lay of the Land becomes better, especially when your production buildings are all maxed out sometime down the road. Who the heck knows when? Then Lay of the Land just gets way more compelling because when your production buildings produce more, like, yes, the bonus over here does more for you. But now, what talents do you take leading up to that point anyways? Well, I've been flashing them on the screen, but allow me to show you the talents for each of the gathering heroes, okay? On each one of them, I want you to take Earth's Grace, overall speed. Speed is critical. Then gathering speed. And then, boom, of course, you take Transforming Spirit. You have to continue. So all of that, pretty standard stuff, no big deal. From here, every single one of them, you're going to take Earth's Grace. But now is where we get hero-specific for which talents you take. So this matters which hero you're using. On Kella, you're going to put 5 points into Gold Gathering because remember, she's a Gold Gatherer. From there, you put 5 points into Mana because Mana is life. You must remember this. Then you want to take the increased Gathering Speed. I recognize this reduces your load capacity, and that sucks, but it's all about gathering speed, and you should prioritize not training cavalry at the start of the game, but instead train your dedicated gathering unit. I really think that's important to do so that you can get your economy running in full. That means we're skipping out on Joyful Burden. You can only get one or the other. This increases your load capacity and reduces the damage you take. Bro, I do not care about that. I'm here to get resource value, baby. From there, we put 5 points into transport speed. This is critical. You're going to be marching. And at the start of the game, the zone is a freaking disaster, man. Everybody's gathering. It's just crazy. You have to march. Gathering speed is relevant. Take it. Your other options were to reduce your Sev wounds and also to increase your Legion's load capacity. Forget that, bro. Forget increasing your Legion capacity. That actually lets you bring more troops. I just do not care. By the time this shows up, you don't need it. It's very strange. From here, we take 15% overall gathering speed, and we take Earth's Grace. Must get. From there, you can double back and take whichever other gathering talents you're interested in. I'm working on ore mining over here because I think gathering ore is going to be really critical. I find that's the resource I'm the lowest on right now, which was a surprise to me. This could depend a little bit on which troop type you're focusing on, and that could influence which one you go for. I do want to highlight and give a sort of shout out to these talents. Leeway makes it so that if you're attacked while you're gathering, you can have a 100% chance to automatically recall. Why does that matter? If your gathering unit is killed in the resource node, you get no resources. If your gathering unit is killed in the field, then you get the resources you had on you. Very important. Must know that. If your gatherer is killed in the node, you get 0 resources gathered, even though they may have been there for an hour. So the ability to automatically recall is obviously a big deal. Plus, this talent makes it so that when your legions hit with a normal attack, they have a 100% chance to become invulnerable and take no damage for the next, I believe it's 10 seconds. So you can get a series of talents that make you move really fast. If you were gathering in an area where there was a lot of fighting, you could actually get some value potentially with some of the talents that are available here. I'm just going for a pure gathering build, not trying to gather in a fighting zone, okay? From here, let's get a look at the other heroes and what talents you take, because Ordo is slightly different. For Ordo, you've got to take, in my opinion, either gold gathering or wood gathering here. I picked gold. The reason I picked gold is because there's 2 dedicated wood gatherers already, and that comes from the skills on those heroes. So I picked gold, and then I picked ore gathering instead of mana gathering. And now that I've completed the tree all the way up to here, I'm doubling back and getting mana gathering, okay? From here, we can get a look at our 2 wood gatherers. That's Indus and Pan. They, of course, are going to have the same build. I've gone all the way over here. We get Lumberjack. That's more wood gathering on the wood gathering heroes, obviously. And, of course, we get the mana gathering. And now that I've completed all the way to the top, I'm probably going to get some more gathering. That's probably the route I go. Because I really want some more. Maybe one of them I'll give gold gathering, but I should have enough talent points by the time I've leveled them up that like I can get both of those if I want, I think. Okay? So that's where I've put my talent points. Remember, the focus is getting to Earth's Grace and leveling up your heroes. Very, very, very critical. Okay, so that gives you a good sense of what talents to use. But now, we got to talk about the artifacts, because there are powerful artifacts that help out. Now, whichever gatherer you send to the pit, your alliance, by the way, can create a resource pit, which is pretty cool. You can gather without being attacked in your alliance's resource pit. Here it is, bada boom. The ore mine is what we have down currently, okay? If you want to know where your alliance has built this, not only can you see it on the map, it's got that little icon that's visible, but yeah, you could scroll past that. You always could just go over to your alliance section, hit territory, scroll down, go to the Alliance Resource Center section, and then you can just click on the location. Easy, baby. And now you know where it is. So even if your officers haven't marked it, like ours have, build, minions, build, you can still find it, okay? Now, the resource pit is really cool. Huge amount of resources in here, and you should try to get heroes that have a ton of gathering speed and send a ton of your resource gathering units to the pit, okay? Next best option is infantry. I'll explain that in a little bit. But the reason you want to do this is that ideally your officers set this up to run overnight, especially. And the way that this is done is through your alliance technology. Now, there are several critical alliance technologies. Consider nudging your officers to get them. I feel like we should have done a little bit more with the gathering technology, but at this point, we're about to get into a huge fight, and so we're 100% committed to the fighting technology. At this point, the economy value is not there, okay? But you can get 25% gathering speed for each resource type from your alliance technology. Convince your alliance leaders that this is something they might prioritize depending on how much fighting you're doing. We have a lot of fighting. We focus on war tech. That makes sense. If we were to have done this gathering tech, we should have done it at the very start of the season. In addition, we were just talking about the gathering pit. The pit will be sized with an amount of resources based on your yields technology. Okay? There is mana wells that you can unlock, and then mana yields, determining how many resources are in there when you build a fresh one. Same thing over here. Ore production unlocks the ore mine or yields. Technically speaking, we shouldn't even bother building the ore mines because, like, they take an hour to build. Doesn't matter what type it is, if it's mana or if it's ore. And we get a small amount of the resources out of the deal compared to the other types we could be doing. Well, specifically compared to mana. So what I'm trying to say is that for every, let's call it 5 hours that we gather ore and drain the pit, we have 1 hour of building. Whereas for mana, it's like 10 hours of gathering and 1 hour of building. See, it's micro optimizations, but they add up. So we also have gold yields influencing the amount of gold and wood yields influencing the amount of wood. All right. So all of that technology is really critical. Depending on how much you focus on your war technology, you will need to focus on one of the gathering technologies. I will again emphasize that mana is probably the play. It may not feel like the bottleneck at the start, but it will be in the mid to late game. And once you get there, you will wish you had lots of mana. Okay, from here, let's talk a little bit about those artifacts, because all of that was the precursor, the appetizer for, hey, which hero do you send to gather in that gathering pit? And it obviously depends on what is in there, but it's probably going to be either Kella or Ordo. Sorry, Chakcha. GG. I mix those guys up all the time. Feels bad. So Chakcha, you would send if it's the ore pit, obviously, right? And I've been sending Kella for basically everything else. I suppose if we had a wood pit, I'd send either Indus or Pan. And at some point, I will switch to being either Indus or Pan gathering in the pit once I get their gathering speed up. Remember, I rushed them to 3 stars, which unlocked the 3rd skill, so now my skills have been deploying randomly, which kind of sucks. Technically, if I wanted, I could go in and I could retrain her. I could spend the 800 gems, and I might get lucky on the gathering speed. But I don't know, man. That just... spending gems for that just... I mean, I have a lot of gems. Maybe I should. So I would recommend, right? We look at Kella. She's got 15% gathering speed. We get a look at Indus. She's got 14%. My Indus is almost better, okay? Almost, but not quite. My Pan is 11% overall gathering speed. As soon as they are more gathering speed than Kella, then I'm going to send them to the pit instead, all right? Now, what artifact do you use? I think the overall gathering speed artifact, although it's a minor amount of gathering speed, is a pretty good pick. This is your enchanted coins. All right, from here, you've got another option. The Stormleaf increases your Legion's load capacity. You can see I haven't even been bothered to put my dust into these because we have actual fights in our server. And this you don't need. Like, you don't need more Legion load capacity. Yeah, at the start of the game, you're going to be like, oh my God, I need it. But like, once you've trained some troops, you're fine. You don't need it, okay? From here, on Indus, I have Legion load capacity as well. Don't really need this. It's not doing much for me. And then on Pan, I've got the best artifact, the Green Finger Sickle. I love this thing, man. This thing's so cool. As soon as you have it and you're using it, you're like, oh my God, it just feels good. This gives you Legion load capacity as well, which is borderline irrelevant. However, if you are gathering at the pit and your problem is that you run out of capacity because you haven't trained enough gathering units yet, then using this item on your pit march could be pretty valuable. I did, for whatever reason, put 8 levels into this, which I find surprising. Yeah, Green Finger Sickle. As you can see here, you instantly gather resources from a resource point, upwards of 400,000 wood, 300,000 ore, or 160,000 mana, which is amazing. I love this thing. It is a very fun artifact. Now, there are other artifacts, and they are legendary. And, you know, even though I'm like the gathering guy, I don't have them. I mean, it's just chance, right? And there's, you know, a bunch that you could get. But the gathering artifacts are cool. What do they do? So Lucia's Horn. After a short charge up, a random resource point located in Alliance territory near you, or near your Legion rather, is refreshed. Okay? And the minimum level is level 4. The maximum level is level 5. But it can be all the way up to level 7, bro, if you max this thing out, which is nutty. If you put all the experience into this bad boy, you get 26% gathering speed. Now, look, I don't think you should be putting your dust for gathering speed, but the base gathering speed of 8%, if I got one of these things, it would be a snap freaking include for me on my pit gathering march, all right? The other one is the Ancient Tree Roots. It's got a 2-minute cooldown. After a short charge up, teleports your Legion to a random, unmanned, high-level resource point within range. I mean, that's kind of cool. Teleports you to the resource point. Being attacked, moving, or gaining control effects interrupts this charge up, which is a bit of a GG. All right. And this has a 2-minute cooldown. So you literally can just teleport your unit over to wherever the node is. And this has a 7.5% Legion load capacity. I just don't think this is as good as the other one. All right. The other one's better, in my opinion. I mean, it's nice you don't have to walk, but you also could just walk. All right. So those are your 2 legendary options. Now, how do you get more of those? Well, here's what you do. In order to get them, you could get lucky with your artifact keys. Alternatively, on an ongoing basis, you should be doing the Guardians and battling and opening these chests, these dark chests. You see, these legendaries are available. And it's my understanding that after you open like 100 of these, maybe, you get a guaranteed legendary. I haven't actually done it. Haven't seen it with my own eyes. But this is probably how you get your gathering legendary. It's through this. So every time you open one of these suckers up and you don't get a legendary, you get one more artifact luck point. The way that you open these is with dark keys. You get your dark keys by battling darklings. You do that every single day because obviously, okay? You battle darklings and dark creatures. You got to battle 10 of them a day. I mean, you should be burning through your CP. Are you kidding me? So this is so easy to do. You can only have a maximum of 5 keys in your inventory at a time. So on a day in which you already have 5 keys, and then you unlock the 2 extra keys here, you can't collect them until you burn through your keys. So ideally, you would go and you would spend those damn keys every single day. Or if you are going to hoard a little bit, every now and then, you'll be able to find a spot that's got like 5 chests and they're epic quality. Sometimes we even have them marked here. Do we have it marked? Dark chest superior. Is it marked? Nope, not marked. That was one of my markers. These rotate around. Today they're blue. Tomorrow they could be epic. It changes around. So it's not permanent, whatever is spawning in. And there are really easy guardians. If you're like, man, I need a group to do this and I can't get one for whatever reason, you just look around and every now and then you'll find some easier guardians, single dark chest over here. You can bring as many fighting marches as you want. It doesn't cost CP to fight these. So they're free to fight, all right? They don't give any extra rewards. They just guard the chests. So get that done every day. Get your extra gathering items. I think this is how I'm going to get my gathering legendary. Of note, the items that are available in this chest are different, I think. Either they're showing randomly different things, or only Lucius Horn is available from this at the legendary tier. I'm actually not entirely sure if I'm reading into that too much, or like, if we look at this and you see, oh, the ancient tree roots are over here. Interesting. Personally, I think Lucius Horn's better. That's the one with the gathering speed and create a resource node anyways, so that's the one I would want. So I don't know, maybe for 100, I'll open up the green one instead. I'll also ask support what they say. And if I have any new information, I'll put that in the pinned comments so you can get that critical intel. There is, by the way, one other way you can get a little bit of extra gathering speed. And if you are an officer and they bestow the saint upon you, you get 10% gathering speed. I mean, it ain't much, chat. It ain't much, but I'm just offering you every bit of edge you can get, all right? So I think we've covered pretty much the majority of the things you need to know about gathering speed. But there is one last thing that does influence this, and that is your policy board. Now, the seasonal policies could change from season to season, but there is resource gathering speed in here, okay? 10% gathering speed, 10% load boost. Then you go down the tree, gem gathering. Then you go further down the tree, resource gathering speed, 15%. 15%, actually, oh, no, more than 15%, 30% more load boost, and also some passive resource production in your city. Do not underestimate the power of resource production from your production buildings in this game. It is nuts. They are powerful. However, you have other priorities at the start of the game, right? But you get a lot of resource gathering speed in here. Do not want to neglect that. Critical to getting a good start and being high on the leaderboard for resource gathering. There is one other type of gathering that we need to talk about, and that is actually gem gathering. You can unfortunately only gather 1,000 gems per week before you're hit with a critical debuff, making it so that your resource gathering, or really gem gathering specifically, is slowed dramatically to the point that it's just not worth it. So if you want to farm some amount of gems, you can hit the gem mines, but only for 1,000 gems per week, which ain't much. And, you know, the thing is, yeah, while you can farm gems, you're also limited on the amount of resources you can receive. This comes from your Alliance market, which I can show you right over here. There's a weekly resource limit. When this building is maxed, that's 100 million resources, which it might seem like a lot at the start of the game, but it ain't much by the time you get to Market 25. Now, the reason I mention this is that in other games like Rise of Kingdoms or other games I've played, you might have your gatherers on your main account gather the gems, and then your farm accounts feed resources to the main. But that is not a valid strategy in this game because you can only get 100 million resources per week. So I do think that having a farm that sends you 100 million resources is certainly better than having no farm. But I also think that, you know, gem farming in this game just really doesn't make a ton of sense, nor does having lots of farms, because not only are you constrained on the amount of resources you can send, but also once you hit the limit on, you know, gem farming per week at 1,000, it's just so unbelievably constrained and so time consuming. It's just the wrong use of time for your marches. You may as well just gather mana or some other resource. Now, if you have any other tips or tricks, or there's anything else related to gathering you think I should have covered but didn't, definitely let me know down below in the comments. And if you got value from this video, do me the honor of throwing a like on the video and subscribing to the channel for more videos designed to help you get value and smash your enemies. We've got a massive fight coming. This is the most stacked server in Call of Dragons. It's not even close. This server is insane. There are 4 alliances that individually are so high power within the first 25 days of the server starting that, like, they would normally be #1 by power in any other server, okay? I can show you that over here. So you want to subscribe so you don't miss out on the fights and all the other videos I'll make that help you get value and smash your enemies. And really, why are we gathering? To prepare for the damn fight, baby. That's what it's all about. So subscribe so you don't miss the epic battle that we have coming up very, very soon. And these alliance powers are really close. It's going to be such a big fight. And if you're looking for other videos that are going to help you just level up tremendously, I'll have a card in the end screen with some overall tips and tricks and a video detailing the best heroes in the game starting in Season 1.